Welcome to the Success Revenue Podcast, the only podcast in the Middle East that brings you leaders in customer success, account management, sales, and go to market to share ideas, perspectives, and valuable learnings on how to successfully drive revenue, delight customers, and take it to the next level.
We are your hosts. I'm Haider Al-Saad, CEO of RevSetter, the modern customer management and AI platform. And with me, I have my lovely co-host, Ivy Ferrero. We are excited to bring you a long list of guests this season on the Success Revenue podcast with experts in sales, CS, go-to-market, and revenue. And please help support the podcast by commenting and liking and subscribing on YouTube. Give us a 5-star review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you're getting your podcast, and follow us on LinkedIn as well. On today's episode, we're very excited to bring you a veteran in the sales and business development space, someone that has experience from companies like DocuSign and Salesforce, and is now running his own business, helping companies accelerate and improve go-to-market using AI. A few takeaways that we'll discuss during today's episode. We'll circle around how to best leverage AI to drive efficiency and productivity in go-to-market and sales. We'll speak about the differences and similarities in terms of challenges that large companies and startups face in the industry. And we'll also talk about tangible strategies for how you can implement AI to improve your go-to-market and sales function. Ivy, I'm very excited about today's episode. This is someone that I met a few different times. He's new to Dubai, but has a long career in Europe and been in the US and is now in the Middle East. So I'm very excited to jump into conversation about sales and AI and sales. How about you?
Yeah, I'm so excited, especially with his background of working in Salesforce. I've always have heard that companies like Salesforce and Oracles that are like true like machines when it comes down to like their products and their go-to-market strategies and everything. I've always heard that they have a incredible training and that people who often go work there for a couple of years end up gaining so many skills after working there. So I'm excited to see what he has to share with us.
Yeah.
But have you been, Hader? It's getting a bit hot in Dubai.
Yeah, definitely it's getting hot. I've been good, super busy with travel and a lot of things kind of post Ramadan, as people are catching up and you're getting going with everything again. So I've been traveling quite a bit. I'm traveling again next week, so I'm going back to Riyadh next week. I'm speaking at an event and meeting with some good people as well while I'm there. But it's cool because I feel like every month, as you know, I'm in Riyadh every month, and almost every other month there's some type of event going on around customer success or go to market revenue, and I've been privileged to speak at many of these over the last 6 months or so. But I kind of keep getting excited and surprised about the energy in the room, about the number of questions that come from the audience, the kind of excitement around sales, customer success, go to market in the KSA market and beyond in our region. So that's super exciting. So I'll be heading there again in a few days here.
That's amazing. And you think there's so many of those events because there's obviously more of a startup ecosystem versus in Dubai. I feel like it would
Yeah,
be incredible if at some point when people come back from the summer, if there is a way to host an event here. But
yeah.
do you think that that's the primary reason why there's so many events happening in Saudi?
I think so. I think that's definitely part of it. And I would say, the other part also, I think the Saudi market is kind of comprised of Saudi companies and a Saudi ecosystem of companies, of startups and scale-ups and larger companies. And then you have some sprinkled in bigger corporations, multinationals that are there. Where I feel like here in Dubai, there's primarily multinationals, so big global companies, and then some startups. So the ecosystem looks a bit different, which also means the the events and the type of things that are happening are also a little bit different. So I think that's probably the main thing. But yeah, definitely something we should do, and maybe with the success revenue community that we have, we'll arrange some good meetups and coffee connects in Dubai after the summer. So I think that that'll be a cool thing to do for sure.
Yeah, it would be amazing. All right, Heather, what do you think? Should we bring Steven in? I
Yes, let's
can't
do
wait
it.
to
I'm
hear him.
excited. Awesome. Let's do
All
it.
right.
Right. We are so excited to bring today's guest on to the show, Stephen Bates. Stephen is actually originally from Dublin, Ireland, and has over 10 years of experience working with go-to-market, sales, and business development. He also worked globally, including in cities like San Francisco, Dublin, London, and is now based in Dubai, here in the UAE. And Steven spent the majority of his career at a global powerhouse Salesforce and different sales and leadership roles. And he's now here in Dubai and he's focused on AI and go to market, a very topical area, of course. And he's helping companies take advantage of the powerful impact AI can have on efficiency and productivity and beyond. And also on a personal note, I know that Steven is competing in marathons, triathlons, and something called high prox competition. So we'll probably ask about what that is as well during this conversation. But Steven, we're super excited to have you on today. Welcome to the show.
Welcome.
Thanks for the introduction. I'm sure we'll dive into certain parts of that, but happy to be here. And it's High Rocks.
High
You're
rocks. There you
you're
go.
you're close.
Perfect. Perfect. High rocks. Yeah, you'll
We're
have to
so
tell us
ex-
more about that.
yeah, we're so excited to have you, Steven.
Thank you.
Great. Great. Awesome. So, Steven, let's kick things off here. And well, let's keep it simple. To start, can you tell us about, obviously, you just got to Dubai. Tell us about your background, kind of your domain, which in the go to market and sales space. But yeah, I would love to hear about your background to start off.
Sure. Well, again, thanks for having me, and excited to dive into a couple of things that you've discussed in the introduction. But as you said, I just moved to Dubai in February, so very new to the city, even though it feels longer already. So I think so much has happened since I've gotten here. All positive stuff. Loving it so far. Um, it's obviously getting hotter each week, so that's something I'm trying to manage. But a quick introduction to myself. As you said, I am from Dublin, Ireland. I think you can find the Irish everywhere in the world, everywhere you go. There's a lot of them in Dubai here as well. But my background, I over 10 years ago at this stage, I wanted to get into tech sales because at the time everybody was talking about tech sales. It's the place to go. It's the place to make money. Um, so what I decided to do was I ditched my college degree back then, which was logistics and supply chain management, and I moved to San Francisco. What's interesting, and just to add context to that move, I didn't know what a CRM system was. I didn't know what you know, how big Silicon Valley was. And I remember walking through San Francisco when I first moved, and I was looking at all the high-rise buildings, and I said, Who's Salesforce?" I didn't know what Salesforce. So somehow I got myself into a BDR role, business development rep role, in a HR tech company. And there I got a sense of like what a startup was. The executives got fired after 6 months. New executives came in, hiring, firing, like making more money than I should have in San Francisco. So I was there for a year, amazing experience, and I knew that sales is where I wanted to spend the rest of my career. So I came home after a year because my visa ended, and I joined DocuSign, but it wasn't DocuSign like we know it today. It was, I think pre-IPO, it was scaling way too, scaling very, very fast. And at the time, I needed more structure. I needed a process to follow. I needed KPIs to hit. And Salesforce at the time were hiring, and I had friends there who said, "Come over, you'll love it, you'll really enjoy it. It's very structured. The training's amazing." there's steps you can take to get up to the next level. And I made the move after 6 months and worked in the Dublin office for about a year and a half, BDR, senior BDR. And then I moved over to the enterprise team over in London. So I joined the enterprise corporate sales team in London, which is basically the high velocity, high intense, high pressured part of the Salesforce beast that basically runs the run rate segment of the enterprise business, which basically means that you're running off a monthly number, your targets are high, pipe gen targets are high, you're constantly having to go in and find new business. So you're on the phones, you're in the office till late in the evenings. But it was an amazing training ground, and it has developed me into the person who I am today, and understanding how business operates and how to have that high performance sort of mindset. Um, but what Salesforce gave me the experience is like understanding, first of all, how big companies operate, the importance of speaking the language of an executive, being able to align solutions with strategic objectives, and the importance of negotiating and building account plans and managing a team. So that's sort of my journey up until Salesforce. But I got to a point in Salesforce where I just had enough, to be honest. I was there for nearly 5 years. I felt like there was more I wanted to do. So I thought going back to a startup would solve my problems or my issues. But after 6 months, I started to get the same feeling. I didn't want to work for somebody else. I wanted to work on my own terms. I wanted to do my own thing. I wanted to take more of a risk. So I joined a company called remote.com, employer of record. Again, it was scaled way too fast, hired way too many people. Um, it was a mess. And after 6 months, I got made redundant. Um, they let go 10% of the company. And it was one of those things that I look back and say, thank God that happened, because, it has set me on the path that I'm on today. Just to add context to the next step, I was fortunate enough to get involved in the startup ecosystem in Dublin. So I worked on an accelerator program, where I was helping and advising young startups on everything to do with business development and sales. And I think what happens is when you work and you build up your skill set for so long, you don't appreciate learned along the way, all the skills that you've picked up. And it was only when I was speaking with these founders and CEOs, telling them everything that I've learned in my career as a salesperson, which you take for granted, and then I started putting some things together, and I realized that there was an opportunity to help startups and companies with their go to market. So I started a fractional sales company where I was just working for myself. I was working with multiple different startups. I was winning business on Upwork. I built a very strong profile on Upwork. And that's where I was getting a lot of my business, but obviously wasn't making that much money. I went from making six figures in Salesforce to very, very little. Um, but that was okay. That was, I had done enough to make I was in a comfortable enough situation to allow me to do that. Um, and then things sort of progressed and grew, and I moved away from Upwork. I graduated from Upwork. I built the fractional business, and then this year I rebranded and relaunched as Cabot Insights.
Very nice.
Wow.
No, yeah, that's an amazing kind of journey that you've been on, and I think that the cool part of it as well is kind of that the different areas that you got to see right throughout that journey, whether that's super structured, corporate, Salesforce, which is as we all know a kind of a beast and a machine that they can learn a ton from over many years, and then probably kind of get, like you said, looking for the next thing, next opportunity, but also seeing scale ups, early stage, DocuSign that grew very fast, remote.com, and also now doing your own thing. And it's kind of all that led you to where you are today, right? And Stephen, you and I, we've met before and talked a few times about kind of your journey, and I think it's fascinating because everything that you've accumulated in terms of knowledge is really the foundation of what you do. And a lot of us take that for granted, everything that we learn over, a decade, 2 decades of operating and doing it successfully in different environments. So tell us a little about your current business. It's focused on, AI and go to market. Speak about kind of what you do there, the role that you have as a founder and looking for business in the Middle East there. I'm kind of curious about that part of your current stage.
Sure. Why I probably went into extra detail in my intro was to um, I thought this journey now and Cabot Insights will make a bit more sense. Um, so as you say, I run an agency. I don't have a product. I don't have a software. But I run a company that helps businesses leverage AI and automation with the view and the goal of making sales teams more efficient and ultimately bring in more leads. Um, we use a tool called clay.com. Some of the listeners might have heard of it, some probably haven't. So to explain what clay.com is, Clay is a very powerful AI sales intelligence platform that basically helps revenue teams with building and enriching lists, updating CRM systems with accurate data, enables companies to build workflows that basically does research at scale and builds automations for different parts of the business. So one of the key use cases would be a sales rep or a BDO or an AE being able to um, very quickly segment and prioritize your account lists, do research, use AI to basically figure out online intents and social signals that enable you to improve your outbound. So we're in this era of efficiency with AI and there's a lot of content online about what AI can do and the importance of AI. And in essence, what we do is we bring the human touch to the complex world of AI, um, and help companies move away from traditional sales process. So automating manual tasks and improving output of reps.
Wow, that is incredible. And Stephen, I was hearing you talk. I mean, you sound so passionate about sales, and I'm so excited that we have you here in the podcast. Having worked in Europe and now in the Middle East region, what unique go-to-market challenges do businesses face here in the Middle East compared to other global markets like Europe?
Um, it's an interesting question, and I'll be very, very, very honest. Like I'm still figuring it out. Um, because I got here in February, I'm slowly but surely getting, introduced to companies and having conversations and meeting people for coffees. Um, because I know things are done a bit differently here in the UAE, and I'm starting to learn that. And Haydar gave me some great advice when we met the last time. Um, so to answer your question, I'm still figuring it out. But fundamentally, all businesses have the same challenges when it comes to go to market. And it might vary depending on the industry, depending on the scale, and depending on the go to market motion. So, if the company is a product led growth, or do they follow a PLG motion? Do they follow a sales led motion? Are they, between 1 and 5 million, or are they 10 million, or are they 50 million? So, depending on the journey of the company, I think the challenges will be similar. It doesn't really matter about the region. And look, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe I'll in 6 months' time, uh, it will change. But you know, um, when you understand the different type of models and the different type of journeys companies take to get to the next level. So a company who's at 1 million, for example, that's all about trying to achieve product market fit as soon as possible, trying to maybe hire the first couple of reps, trying to figure out like who is their ideal customer profile. And then when they get to 10 million, it's like, okay, we have a motion that works. How do we double down and invest in our growth channels because we have predictability in what has worked up until this point? And then that's sort of moving on to the next stage. So that's how I probably look at it, holistically. I think um, companies, again, B2B companies specifically, are probably all asking the same questions as well at this moment. Is how do we save time? How do we be more efficient? How do we get better data? How do we grow? How do we increase revenue? And how are you? This is probably where the importance of acquisition and post acquisition, come into play is uh, an early stage company is obviously very very focused on acquisition, right? So how can we grow the company as much as possible? But when you get to that higher scale and higher revenue, the retention and expansion become even more important. Um, so I'm very focused on obviously pre-acquisition, but I'm starting to try to educate myself and learn more about the what we call the right side of the bow tie, which is all about customer acquisition, customer experience, right? And um, I think for me, it's important to know that full life cycle. And I think there's a lot of people who are in the world that I'm in, an agency that helps company bring in more leads, be more efficient. They don't understand the full life cycle of a customer and the importance of not just winning them but also keeping them. And that's where customer experience and CS for you guys probably come into play.
Got it. Yeah, makes sense. And Stephen, I mean, you talked to us about your journey and how you landed in sales and how you just basically built this career in sales. What would you say fascinates you the most about being in sales?
I think for me, I'm naturally a very curious person. I love trying to figure things out. Um, and I love trying to understand how to make things better. And that's on a personal level. Um, I'm always setting myself uh, ambitious, uncomfortable goals, whether it be a marathon or a triathlon. And I probably bring some of that energy in my role in a GTM role. Is like, how can we take something today and how do we bring it to the next level? And I think the more you speak to companies, and I'd like to hear your perspective on this as well. Maybe is very few companies have it figured out. Um, there's challenges everywhere, whether it's pre-acquisition, whether it's conversion, whether it's retention, whether it's um, you know whatever it may be. I think um, there's always a challenge, and that's what makes it exciting for me. Like, and if I'm sure. Look, there is companies out there that have it all figured out, and kudos to you. And I'm sure we can all learn a lot from those businesses. But there's always something to fix, and for me, the type of person I am, I love trying to figure that stuff out.
I love that.
Yeah, definitely. It's and I would agree with that as well. It's you look across the spectrum of companies from startups to the biggest companies in the world, and uh, every single one, I would say that I haven't met one yet that has everything figured out. There might be ones that are growing a lot at the starting stage. There might be ones that are doing well on retention at the starting stage. Maybe some are doing both, but there's always challenges, especially across the go-to-market function, whether that's efficiency in the sales process, whether that's marketing, lead generation, branding, etc., or on the retention, expansion, advocacy side on the post-sales part of the business. So definitely see that companies do have these challenges. It's about how effectively are you solving them, and how effectively are you kind of going from those plateaus that you always hit as a company in your journey to kind of accelerate to the next stage. So having inside and external insight a lot of times is a crucial part of unlocking certain areas. So definitely agree with you there, Stephen. Um, and kind of too. pick back a little bit off that, but also kind of go back to your journey in a sense. As someone that you spent five plus years at Salesforce, which is very very structured. It's kind of a well run organization from a sales perspective, I would say, in terms of structure, and there's at least an identity about how things would happen. Uh, when you look back at that journey and then look at what you're doing today, right, as a founder running your own business in a startup kind of capacity, what are some of the key learnings that you took away from Salesforce that's really helped you in what you're doing today in terms of running your own business, working with companies? Are there two or three things or a couple things that you can pinpoint that's been really beneficial that translated well?
Yeah, very good question. Definitely a lot that I take with me today and what I'm doing, but also like how I speak and work with my own clients. Um, I said this in the introduction. Salesforce is an amazing training ground into excellence in terms of sales excellence, how to ask the right questions, how to handle objections, how to present to leadership on account plans and make a strategy and deliver on that strategy. Um, you have to sales is my background. So, I'm running a go-to-market business, and any founder and any uh, business owner, your goal is to grow the business. So what excites me about, again, going back to your question, Ivy, about what fascinates me is um, I'm pretty much doing the same type of stuff, but for myself. I'm trying to win deals. I'm trying to progress pipeline. I'm trying to deliver a good service. I'm trying to, improve. I'm trying to bring a team on. Um, but some of the key things that I suppose, taken away from my days at Salesforce and even other startups is like always be prospect. You can't let that drop. And unfortunately, at the start of the year, I did let that drop because I was doing a rebrand, I was doing a new website, I was moving to Dubai, I was going through the visas, and naturally you can't do everything. And after 6 7 weeks, I'm like, oh God, I need to I need to start doing the basics again. So always be prospecting. Um, Probably that high performance mindset of like, setting yourself goals, setting yourself targets, and being able to deliver on them, which is an important aspect in all aspects of people's careers, not just go to market and sales. Um, and yeah, they're probably the main aspects.
Yeah. No, those are great. And I think it's funny, right? As someone like yourself that I started in sales in my early days and transitioned kind of post sales and then did the whole gamut for many years. But I think one of the things that you learn at at a really good sales organization is the actual process, right? The process from A to Z, how it should run, how it should look, and what works and doesn't work. And the best salespeople, and then eventually the best business people, are the ones that can stick to those fundamentals, right? That understands that doing the basic things the right way is what adds up to success over time. And it's we see it in business, you can see it in sports. If you talk to anyone that's great, like at an elite level in any sport out there, or performers and trainers, they'll tell you the same thing. It's kind of that the grind of doing the basic thing every day. Basketball player going into the gym and shooting 1,000 shots every single day to perfect their motion and their shot. Same thing in sales and customer success and all these go-to-market functions. There's a process. You follow it diligently, then that'll increase your chances of success. I think that's a great point to bring up there as well. Um, and to kind of to that effect as well, when you look at and you work because we work in large organizations and sold to large organizations, through whether that's DocuSign, Salesforce, etc. And also now in different roles that you've had over the years into startups and smaller organizations. Um, there's I think a lot of inherent differences between those types of organizations, the challenges that they face, and maybe you can lift up maybe one of those key differences. But I think on the other side of it, what are some of the similarities in terms of the challenges that a big organization will face but they also see with the startup. I think people know less about that. What would you say are some of those similarities that they're facing in the go-to-market space?
I'd say like some of the obvious ones will, a smaller startup. I think we touch on this slightly earlier on, but a smaller startup, they're making assumptions, right? They're testing. They might not have product market fit, even though they might think that they do. Um, they don't yet understand the unit economics of their business because it's still there's not enough data to do it like proper deep analysis. So um, they haven't figured out when is the right time to invest in growth and when should they fuel the fire and when should they scale and when should they, hire people. Um, and I think being in the Pavilion ecosystem, Hadar, and listening to Sam Jacobs, who's the CEO of Pavilion, um, they I think Sam and Pavilion do a great job in emphasizing all these important aspects of the different stages of a company and different stages of startups and when they should be thinking about things. But look, I think both size companies have similar challenges. It's how do we grow pipeline? How do we convert more deals? How do we provide more value? How do we target the right person at the right time with the right message? How do we grab prospects' attention? Um, Sam Latka, um, he's a famous um, startup content guy. Has a few books in the US. I don't know how to describe him, but he talks about attention being zero sum game. Right, there's only a limited amount of attention. So being in a sales role or working at a startup and running a business is like, how do we grab someone's attention? And I think as a business owner, as a sales rep, it's always having that in mind because sending 10,000 emails doesn't work anymore. The days of personalizing with first name and employee size is not a strong enough reason to reach out. It doesn't work anymore. What works now is figuring out, can we find any intent online that enables us to reach out again with the right message. Is there any triggers that we can find? Hiring, growth, technology that they're using. Is the prospect visiting our website? Have they downloaded a white paper? Can we see that this person used to work at a company that is a customer of ours? Right. So you're trying to create this overarching picture and image as to your ideal customer profile uh, base. And I'm probably going off a bit off topic here, a small bit, but it comes back into sort of what I was saying is like companies need to grow. So everyone has the same challenges there, and especially in this world and era of AI, unfortunately, there's more noise as well. There's more volume. There's when there's a lot of good, there's a lot of bad, and I've seen it firsthand. Some of the messages and outreach that I get. So yeah, to answer your question, more pipeline. How do we close? How do we be more efficient? I think every company has that challenge.
Mm, makes sense. And Stephen, and of course, we have to talk about AI. You just mentioned it. You run an AI focused go to market company. How is your view in AI in go to market today? How do you view it?
um, so I posted something on LinkedIn a few weeks ago that got a bit of traction. Um, I think nearly 1,300 likes, 360,000 impressions, 130 comments, and it was probably and this is why the LinkedIn algorithm likes it because it was a bit controversial in a sense. But what I was saying in the post was basically like if you're not investing in AI, um, whether that's trying to upskill, whether that's training your team and encouraging people to come to the floor with ideas, whatever it may be, companies must invest in AI or risk being left behind. And those who don't invest in upskilling, improving efficiency, automating manual processes will be beaten by their competitors, and that's just a fact. Um, there's a couple of stats that I read recently, and I'm going to read them from the screen. So McKinsey reports over the next 3 years, 92% of companies plan to increase their AI investments. Salesforce state that 83% of teams using AI have experienced revenue growth, compared to 66 of those not utilizing AI, and 64% of 2,000 CROs surveyed plan to adopt AI to eliminate manual tasks. So, like AI and go to market is basically like it's allowing companies and organizations to build go to market motions for precision. Companies are able to get hyper personalized and build micro segmentations of target lists that they weren't previously able to do, or if they did do it before, it took weeks and weeks of work and research and headcount. But now with AI, we're able to segment and enrich and personalize outreach. We're able to use intent data to engage at the right moment, not just because the employee count is 200. You know, what if a company is 190 and you've left them out of your target list just because you're segmenting by employee size? Rather than what are other signals that we can look at? This company has hired 10 people in the last 6 weeks in a certain headcount in a certain segment. They're a good fit for us because we've seen that trend, and we can back it up with our data. So yes, very important. Um, so highly recommend people to look into it.
Wow, it's exciting, so exciting. And Stephen, when we talk about data, what do you say is the role of data in scaling the use of AI, especially in the context of go to market?
Yeah, great question. So data comes up in every call that I have, every prospect call, every customer call. So it's important to also like take a step back. Like AI isn't always the fix. By the way, I'm not. Um, AI isn't just a magic pill and you implement it and everything is perfect. That's not the case, and I hope I don't come across in that um, in that way. But the real bottleneck that companies have is messy data, so inaccurate data, and 99% of companies who I've spoken to recently either say that their HubSpot and Salesforce is a mess. Um, and so the first step before investing in automations and implementing these amazing workflows is how can we clean our CRM data? How can we make sure it's accurate? How can we make sure that it's enriched? So the first part of the process is improving the revenue, if you want to call it like a revenue data layer, right? So that's cleaning and enriching the CRM. So it's AI ready. So with Clay, what you're able to do is basically pull in your data from your CRM and it will verify, it will enrich each of the contacts, the accounts, verify the emails. Are they still working in this company? Have they got a promotion? Has a person moved to a different company? Is the website URL accurate? Is the employee uh, count accurate? Is the revenue range accurate? And then we're able to pull in some other, technology information, any other intent signals. And then what Clay will allow you to do is basically assign a score based on your ideal customer profile. So in the workflows and the tables that you're able to build, you're assigning scoring models so your reps know high priority contacts and accounts to go after. But you can't do any of that without data. So I mean, the role of data in scaling AI is absolutely, step number one. You have to start there.
Got it. And just to this question, Stephen, because even for customer success tools like RefSetter, you have to have your data clean in order for you to be able to connect it to a customer success tool. And one of the things that I have always heard is that you should probably hire somebody who goes through the data and cleans it out. But basically, you're saying that Clay will help with the cleaning out by asking certain questions? Or do you still need someone that internally within the company can go through the data and try to clean out as much as possible?
No, so in well, you need a human to set up the workflows and connect Clay into your HubSpot, for example. Um, and you need someone who knows how to use Clay, right? And this is why Clay agencies have appeared over the last the last while or the last year. Is Clay on whether it's unfortunately or fortunately, it takes time to learn how to use properly. Um, so to answer your question, you don't need a human to go through each of the results. You just need a human to basically build the workflow, but it will pull data, accurate real time data, into your HubSpot. So using different data providers, different validation providers, it ensures that the data that's being pulling in is verified and accurate. So it removes the need to have a team, maybe offshore team that does it all manually. You now do it automatically.
Oh, wow. Super neat.
Yeah, it's such a key thing. I mean, we talk about data all the time in different contexts on this podcast as well with a lot of our guests, and it's one of maybe the number one things that I come across as well out there, whether that's on the the business side for Websetter or from an advisory perspective, is how do we break our data silos? How do we ensure the data is clean? How do we ensure that we have, we remove data gaps because those also exist. And then once we get all through all that, the data hygiene and infrastructure part, then you can actually really get into the real opportunities of leveraging AI and then also agentic AI and agents and these different things. But it's a process that a lot of people miss. And I think it's one that is improving through tools like Clay or Repset and others that can handle this really well. But a lot of data still, unfortunately, lives in legacy systems where it's you know, Salesforce instance that's been there for 15 years and it's crazy messy, or a HubSpot instance has been there for 7 years with different leaders coming in and out and deciding to do things in different ways. And that's a lot of times where you'll get a lot of that kind of messy data structure because it accumulates and you get that kind of data debt over time that you're trying to then clean out at a certain point when you need it for AI or agentic AI and other things that will really help you fuel and be more efficient. So definitely agree with that pain point because we see it all over the place out there in the market here and in the global markets as well. Um, but Stephen, I was kind of if we stay on the AI piece, obviously, which is the hot topic that everyone is talking about, and which I believe, and I think many believe, is going to be really in everything that we do in the future, whether that's in our realm of customer success, sales, go to market, or just in generally in society. But I'm curious, kind of for our listening audience, are there any specific AI strategies that you've implemented that's had really good tangible output for sales or go-to-market teams? Can you name a strategy or two, maybe a use case, an example that would be helpful for the listeners to learn about?
Yeah, I can walk through some um, playbooks or some of the workflows and use cases that we've developed and we've implemented. And again,
Give us one or
if
two for sure.
if we take if you take the role of a traditional salesperson, so my background and a lot of my network on LinkedIn all work and have come from this world of at the start of the year, a rep is given, let's say 1,000 accounts, and maybe It depends on obviously the role, but depending on are they focused on new business logos? So if we take a new business logos rep who is given 1,000 accounts, he's new into the account, he might have a couple of existing customers. You've a lot to do there. You've a list, and you might be able to segment again by company size, but is that company size accurate? Employees, revenue range, industry, right? So the data that you have is very, very basic. So what we do, and I've probably touched on some of this previously before, but what you're able to do, and one of the very powerful but simple um, workflows is ICP scoring at scale. So once you've defined how you class a prospect account as let's call it a 10 out of 10 or 100 out of 100, let's say because of X, Y, and Z, if they, fit that criteria, they make us a tier one target. Previously, I had to tier my accounts 1, 2, and 3 manually, and it would take me weeks to build an account plan. But now within Clay, you can bring in those 1,000 companies or your whole company list, your whole TAM, for example. So a company who has 20,000 companies that they plan to go after, you now have segmented that list and narrowed it down into maybe 1,000. So your chances of converting those leads are much higher because you have data and case studies, and you can ask the right questions, and you know how to speak to that buyer persona, etc., etc. So that's just one example. So think about the time saving of being able to score at scale. Second one is, what we call trigger based outbound workflows. So sometimes in the past, it might be too late before you figure out someone has got a promotion or they've hired 10 people or if they just got funding. What we do in Clay is we basically, the AI agent will keep an eye on these social triggers. And when the trigger happens, you can kick off an automated outbound campaign that basically uses AI that references all that information. Finds the VP of sales. Hey, Chris, I saw that you just hired Vanessa, Richard, and Rachel in the last 3 months. This typically means X, Y, and Z. Here's how we have helped similar companies in your space, right? We can do that automated, right? So that's
Mhm.
again efficiency
Yeah.
gains. Um,
Yeah.
Another thing that we're doing is call summary follow up automation. So when you finish a call, we basically have a workflow that basically takes the transcript. It goes into a ChatGPT and it outputs an email ready for you to send to the prospect. And look, I'm sure there's other tools out there that do that, but that's the type of efficiencies and workflows that you can use with Zapier and Make.com
Yeah.
and ChatGPT and N8N. These are all these amazing automation tools. And then finally, I'd say um, uh, one workflow that I really like because it's a massive problem is the time to respond to a lead. I think I read the other day the average time is like 40 hours or something. I could be wrong there, but something crazy.
Yeah.
So we have an inbound workflow that basically when a form is filled out on your website and it goes to your HubSpot via a webhook, which basically is us sending information from one system to another, we send that data into a Clay workflow and then we enrich. How long they been working at the company? Who is the company? Have they received funding recently? How big is their team? This is their phone number. This is their email. This is their URL. We score that lead and we send it directly to the sales rep in Slack. So within a moment, the sales rep gets a message in Slack that says, "Hey, you've got an 80 out of 100 um, high priority lead, hot lead. This is what you need to say. Here's who you need to speak with." And then we can add in other information. So it's all about time saving, it's all about efficiency, and it's all about bringing data to reps so they can focus on selling.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. A really good strategies, and really it's the framework right there, right? It's about segmentation at scale. It's about scoring at scale. It's about instant outreach and personalization also at scale, and leveraging AI to do these different things, and then post call and other things that you can get into. But It's really just kind of driving through that entire sales process that's been there for ages, but it's about how do you make each part a lot more efficient, a lot more productive, and make sure that the reps can focus on, okay, let me go speak to the prospect, let me go speak to the customer, and actually create value, versus running through all that administrative process that is entailed with doing it in the old school way. So I love that, Stephen. Awesome, awesome. All right, so Stephen, the time I was just kind of looking at, we've been flying through, and we've covered a lot of really good topics. So I'm very excited to have you here today. One thing that we typically do for all of our listeners, and I'm sure if you listen to some episodes, is at the end of it, we like to do some quick, like a lightning round of questions and answers with our guests. And we're at that time here for today. So, Stephen, are you ready to go through some quick hitters here from us as well?
Yes, but before we jump into that, I just want
Yeah.
to maybe like close off the discussion on
Hmm.
AI.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
good.
I don't want to come across like AI is the number one thing, and you have to do it, and it's going to solve everything. At the end of the day, AI will only do a certain percentage of the process. What you need to invest in is that human connection. So your ability to ask the right questions, your ability to meet people face to face, your ability to fly across the world and go to an event, and like that face to face element is way more important than AI. So don't underestimate that side of your skill set as well. Like don't underestimate your ability to build rapport, build relationships, build proper connections. Because at the end of the day, sales happens at that point. I know AI can help you up until a certain stage, but then it's on you, on the salesperson. It's on you to get the deal done, and that's through relationships.
Well, I love that.
Absolutely. I think that's a great point. And it's, we say it all the time, AI will amplify what you're doing, good or bad. And at the end of the day, you need humans to be there and do the right parts of that process, and let AI do the right parts of the process. And yeah, I agree. As someone that's a huge believer in AI, will run a lot of things for our future. It doesn't mean it replaces humans. It amplifies, and it diverse what we are doing today with our day to day versus what we can potentially do with AI taking over some of those things. And it's, yeah, something we've seen over and over in history, with different types of developments. It's kind of a reshift of resources, versus a full replacement of resources. Um, Amazing. Awesome. So, all right. So let's jump into the lightning round then, Stephen, and we'll start you off easy, with our first question here, if you're ready for it.
Sure.
So yeah. So the first question out here is, what is currently your favorite uh, content to consume? Favorite book, podcast, etc.
Um, on a personal level, I love stand up comedy. There's a YouTube stand up show called Kill Tony, which airs every week. It's the largest live stand up comedy podcast in the world. I binge it. It's like 2 hours long, and I love it.
Nice. That's awesome. That's awesome.
But
Great.
business wise, or on the professional side of things, I do love Sam Jacobs' Top Line podcast with AJ Bruno and Assad. Really, really relevant for people in go to market. So that as well.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. Yeah, sound is amazing, and the podcast is awesome as well. With the guys there, so that's a great recommendation. And the cast is, sticking something similar. Any favorite people to follow or get inspiration from? And any specific one you'd recommend?
In the again, it's going to sound like I work for Pavilion, but I think Sam Sam Jacobs' content on LinkedIn for go to market leader is really really good as well. So
Yeah,
I say Sam.
awesome. Yep. No, again, great guy, and has a ton of great ideas. And he's the same when you're spending time with him in person as well. Just, yeah, very generous with his time, and kind of a lot of good ideas, and just a good dude as well. So definitely also recommend to give him a follow and check out the podcast. And then last one for me in terms of the lightning round here. Any favorite new idea or concept that you kind of got introduced to as of late that you really like?
Yes, I have a call tomorrow with a startup in the UK who've developed an AI powered sign language translator. Um, I'm actually fluent in sign language. Both my parents are deaf, so it's something that I'm very, very curious about. So I have a call with the head of go to market. So I want to see how they've built it, what they've done. So I'm interested in that for sure.
It's very cool.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's incredible. That is incredible. Um, wow, Stephen, and what is one life philosophy you like to live by?
I probably have a few. Um, but the number one, I read an amazing book a couple of years ago by Ryan Holiday. It's called "The Obstacle Is the Way," and it just came at a really good time where I needed to read it. And the whole premise, it pulls from Stoic philosophy and Marcus Aurelius. But obstacles happen in life, and when an obstacle happens, embrace it. There's a reason why it happened. So I'm a firm believer in the obstacle is the way. So using obstacles and challenges in your life to become better.
Wow, I love that. And lastly, when you are not working and crushing all of your metrics during the week, on the weekend, what are you doing to decompress?
I'm probably training and running and exercising, but no, obviously I'm new to Dubai, so just trying to get familiar with all the amazing restaurants and coffee shops. Going to chilling out at some beach clubs on Privly. I absolutely love the Privly app. So yeah, either training or chilling out.
It's crazy. There is such a big High Rocks community here. I don't know if you want to tell us a little bit about the High Rocks training,
Yeah,
because I know it's fun.
High Rocks. It's a high intensity race where basically you run 8 1 kilometer loops, and then after each of the 1 kilometers, you do a functional exercise. So it's eight 1Ks and 8 exercises, and you try to do it as fast as possible. But it's blown up. I think it's one of the fastest growing sports that has ever appeared. Obviously, probably down to social media and um, the low barrier to entry. I think they've done an amazing job. I think it's an amazing sport. It brings people together. It pushes you, and yeah, really, really enjoying it.
Amazing. And Stephen, if any of the listeners want to connect with you, what's the best way to do so?
So if you search Stephen Bates on LinkedIn, I should come up. My tagline, I think, is AI and go to market. My company is Cabot Insights. That's CABOT insights.com. And yeah, either LinkedIn or my website.
Amazing. Well, Stephen, it has been an incredible time with you. We have learned so much, and I'm so appreciative that you have been sharing all of this wisdom that you've acquired over the years. So, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you both.
Thank you,
Really,
Steven.
really
Thanks. It's
appreciate
been
it.
a pleasure, Steven. Thank you.
Bye bye.
We want to thank our sponsors for supporting the Sussex Revenue podcast. RevSetter is the #1 customer success and management platform in the Middle East region, offering global capabilities mixed with regional solutions that helps your CS, account management, and go-to-market teams 10x efficiency, improve customer experience, and turbocharge customer retention rates.
And thank you to Medlify, a leading marketplace. Workers and employers in the healthcare space needs and demands meet to create benefits for both sides. Thank you again, and we'll see you next time.